Hello everyone. Today we will talk about negative emotions and how to handle them. But before we proceed, I would like to say a huge thank you to all the people that support my channel, that subscribe, that like, that comment and share the content. Thank you so much. If you still haven't subscribed, please do so because it really helps the channel grow. Also, now you can support this channel financially, and if you like the content, if you find it useful, please support this channel financially, and you will find all the details in the description of this video. So, negative emotions and how to handle them. I call them negative because they're not really pleasant, but all of them have a function. So, what is an emotion anyway? An emotion is a psychological reaction to our understanding of the events around us. Yeah, things happen, and our interpretation of what happens causes reactions. And as I said, all of them have a certain function, and a healthy psyche experiences the whole spectrum of emotions. So you don't have to block them, you don't have to ignore them, and you don't have to think otherwise. For example, if you have anxiety, if there's a chaos inside of you and you try to, I'm okay, everything's fine, everything's under control, don't do it. If you're happy, you're happy. If you're sad, you're sad. If you're angry, you're angry. Accept your emotions, live them, process them fully, and you will have a very healthy psyche. If you don't, well, suppressed emotions get stored. They don't go anywhere. Our brain cannot do that, right? So they get stored somewhere and they create psychological and physical problems. Psychological things like anxiety and a huge psychological pressure and stuff like that. Physiology, I mean psychosomatics. Yeah, suppressed emotions can lead to serious illnesses like autoimmune disease, cancer, and stuff like that. So that's very serious stuff. Never suppress emotions, leave them, accept them, so they can do their job and leave our body without doing any harm. Okay. So how to handle negative emotions, I will explain a bit later. But for now, let's just talk about a few basic rules that will help us understand the function, the origin, and the purpose of emotions. Okay. So, rule number one: we don't react to what happens around us. We react to our interpretation of what happens. Okay, to what it means to us, to the way we understand these events. So the same event might happen to two different people and they'll have different reactions, different emotions. Okay? The second one, sometimes we react not to the present but to the past. And I'm talking about emotional traumas. So for example, if you have a trauma like you've been humiliated in the past as a child, as a young person growing up, and somebody makes a joke about you, a rather harmless one, but your reaction is very painful, and you think about this joke for like 3 days afterwards. Most probably, you are not reacting to this joke. You are reacting to the emotional trauma from the past. And you can change these things. But if you don't, stuff like that is going to happen. Number three, our emotions depend on our inner resources as well. So if you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating well, if you work too much, if you don't get enough rest, if you're exhausted, if you're under a lot of stress, you might not react accordingly, right? You might not have the most adequate emotions. So best not to engage into conflicts or make serious steps or take serious decisions in such a state. Yeah, Get your inner resources in order and then act. And here I would also like to mention impulsivity. And that's rule number 4. Never act under the influence of serious, strong emotions. And I'm talking about positive emotions as well as negative emotions, right? Because when you experience a very strong emotion, it turns off the rational part of your brain and you are no longer being reasonable. So, example of positive emotions. You are walking through the shopping mall and you see something. Wow. And you want to buy it straight away. You want it so much. Never do that. Never ever do that. Golden rule. Give yourself 1 day, right? And if you wake up the next day and you still want that thing, most probably it's reasonable. But if you wake up and realize, nah, I don't really need it, you avoided a big mistake, right? And you'll be able to avoid stuff like you bought something under the influence of a strong emotion, and you woke up the next day and you just, we've all been there, but we can avoid that type of stuff. Negative emotions. Well, if you are experiencing really strong anger, overwhelming anger, never try to engage into a conflict or to confront someone and sort everything out. Don't do it while you are experiencing these strong emotions, because you will not be reasonable in that situation. Give yourself an hour, 2, 3, 1 day, as much as you can, according to that situation. Wait it out and then act rationally. Okay? And here I would also like to mention healthy anger, which is the most adequate reaction to the violation of your personal boundaries. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Absolutely. That's the healthiest reaction to when somebody breaches your personal boundaries. And there's nothing wrong with telling someone in a way that will make sure you'll be heard. And I don't mean aggression or violence, stuff like that. No, you don't have to shout. You don't have to beat people up. No. But letting them know in a very serious way that they cannot do that. They cannot talk like that with you. They cannot behave that way with you. That's a perfectly healthy behavior. Don't be ashamed of it. Because you'll never be good for absolutely everyone. Never. So don't even try. And don't be ashamed if you had such a reaction, because you are protecting yourself and your boundaries. That's perfectly fine. Now, how to handle negative emotions? Well, what you have to do is you have to accept the emotion. When it happens, you accept it, right? You are aware of it. You feel it rising within you, okay? And you become its observer. If you become its observer, that will help prevent it overwhelming you and shutting off your rational part of the brain. So you will have some kind of control over it if you observe it. If you observe it on both a psychological and physical level. And what do I mean by that? For example, you are experiencing serious anger, right? Just pay attention to how your blood pressure rises. Pay attention to how your heart starts beating, how your muscles start flexing, right? How your body temperature goes up. Be aware of everything, right? Let the emotion unfold itself in order to process it fully, so it can do its job and leave our body without doing any harm. Next, the more emotionally mature you are, the better you'll be able to self-regulate and to handle these negative emotions. And what everyone must have is a set of certain questions that will help you rationalize the situation, and it will help you regulate your inner state or your emotional state. So I would suggest 4 questions that would really enhance your chances of self-regulating in any situation. First of all, when exactly did the emotion start? At what point? And that will help you um, find the source, find the cause of the emotions, find the event that caused the emotions. Second, once you found the event, what does this event mean to me? Something happened that triggered this emotion. What does this event really mean? Third question, is my reaction proportionate to what happened? Did I react accordingly? Because if you realize that something minor happened, but you have a really overwhelming, strong emotion, you realize that you are not reacting accordingly, adequately, and that will help you self-regulate. Okay? And the last one that really helps me is, will I remember this in 5 years' time? And if you realize that this is a really minor thing, and I won't even remember it after 2 weeks, that'll help you realize that this event is not worth your inner resources, is not worth your emotions, your thoughts, is not worth you damaging your health because of it. So, friends, this is not some kind of magic. I'm not saying it's going to work like that every time, or it's going to work like 100%. But once again, the more emotionally mature you are, the better you'll be able to regulate your emotional state. And these questions will really help. Now, I would like to talk about the situations when nothing happens, but we experience negative emotions. How? Very simple, because we have such amazing gifts as memory and imagination. And I would like to look at it from another perspective, not a psychological one. So I like the way Eckhart Tolle explained this, and he's a spiritual teacher. He calls the totality of our emotional traumas the pain body. And it's like a body within us. It doesn't exist in reality, but it's like a body within us that is formed of all of our emotional traumas, right? And just like our physical body, it needs food. And whenever it needs food, it provokes the memory or the imagination to create some negative thoughts, which is the food of the pain body. So, you're at home, nothing bad happens, you're doing fine, nothing happens at all. And all of a sudden, you start thinking about a past conflict, a really traumatic, a really painful and unpleasant one. Now, the thing we all have to remember is that in that moment, our mind, our brain cannot differentiate reality from a memory. So your body reacts and your brain reacts as if it's happening right now. Yeah? So you are poisoning your soul and your body for no objective reason. It's silly, I know, but it happens with a lot of us. And it's all due to emotional traumas. Okay? So nothing happens, but you start thinking about the past conflict and you start feeling this anger, and you're under a lot of stress, and your muscles flex, and your blood pressure rises and your heartbeat increases. So nothing happened, but you are under a lot of stress. Or it triggers the imagination. And for example, you have to confront someone tomorrow. Your brain might draw the absolute worst possible scenario of this dialogue, right? Again, if you have an emotional trauma, through that, it's going to predict this confrontation that you must have. And it will draw an incredibly horrible picture, the worst possible picture, right? So nothing bad happened yet, but you already are under a lot of stress. You already experienced this horrible conflict that never existed. How to handle this type of stuff? Again, Eckhart Tolle gave a wonderful solution as far as I'm concerned. It involves being present, being in the present moment. And what does that specifically mean? It means concentrating on one of our five senses: what we feel, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste. Any one of them, if you really concentrate on one of them for, in my experience, at least 3 minutes, it cuts off the connection between the pain body and our memory or imagination, and stops the process. Okay? So, if you're in the shower, concentrate on every drop of hot water touching your body. If you're watching something, if you have something to look at and really examine it, like really dive into it, go for it. If there's a strong, pleasant smell, dive into it. It doesn't matter which one, just choose one of the five senses, and it will cut off the connection in about 5 minutes. I mean, 3 minutes is enough for me, but it might be different for you, but it works. Okay? So, once again, friends, every emotion has a function. Never suppress them. Leave them out fully. Process your emotions fully so they can do their job and leave our body without doing any harm. Okay? You can rationalize your emotions and you can regulate your inner state using those 4 questions. And if you have negative emotions that were not triggered by anything objectively, nothing happened, but you have them, be present in the moment. Use these tactics, use these procedures, and they'll get you out of it. Okay? So, I wish you all the best, friends, and I'll see you soon.